Undercover boss buys a burger at his own drive-thru, freezes when manager jokes about customers. Hurricane. The bell above the cafe door jingled faintly as Ethan Wells stepped inside, a blast of roasting coffee beans and chatter washing over him. But no one looked up. Why would they? To them, he was just another tired, middle-aged man in a faded hoodie and jeans, with scruffy stubble that blurred the sharp lines of his jaw. Perfect. That's exactly what he wanted. It was his fifth undercover visit this month, each one more unsettling than the last. But today, something felt different. The tension in the air wasn't just the usual Monday morning rush. It was heavier, like a storm building under fluorescent lights. He made his way to the counter, eyes scanning every detail. The barista's forced smile, the pile of unwashed mugs behind the espresso machine, the tip jar half full despite the morning crowd. This was one of his flagship stores, a crown jewel when Wells Brew first expanded into downtown Los Angeles. Now the shine was fading. Next, barked a voice from behind the counter. Ethan stepped forward. Medium black coffee. No sugar. The young man at the register didn't bother making eye contact as he tapped the order. His name tag read Chad. Ethan recognized the name from a complaint email last week, rude service, missing orders, dismissive attitude. He'd dismissed it as exaggeration. Seeing Chad's bored scowl now, he wasn't so sure. That'll be $3. I don't know when I'm 50, Chad said flatly. Ethan handed over cash. As Chad counted out the change, a teenage customer leaned over from the next spot at the counter, whispering something under his breath. Ethan caught only fragments. I can't believe this dump charges $5 for burnt water. Manager doesn't even care. Heard they fired Maria just 'cause she asked for a raise. Ethan's heart clenched. Maria, one of the original hires, a one sure enough for reliable, hard-working, beloved by regulars. No to worry, Chad snorted under his breath, loud enough for Ethan and apparently the teen to hear. Yeah, well, she wasn't family. You want to last around here, better be blood or dating someone who's management. Ethan froze. The words hung in the air, casual yet cutting, a dagger dressed as a joke. He stepped aside to wait for his coffee, mind racing. Better be family. The phrase felt like a loose thread unraveling a much bigger mess. Behind him, the teen muttered louder now, frustration bubbling over. This place used to be good. Now it's just trash. My mom stopped coming after they gave her the wrong order 3 times. Said the new manager doesn't care. Ethan turned, taking in the teen's defiant glare. His shirt bore the logo of a nearby high school marching band. Probably a regular. Probably someone whose small daily rituals once centered around this cafe and who now felt betrayed. His gaze flicked back to Chad, now joking with another employee. A young woman with blue-streaked hair leaned over the pastry case, laughing a little too loudly. Ethan didn't recognize her. Another recent hire. Order for Ethan, Chad called lazily, waving a paper cup in the air. Ethan took it, scanning the misspelled name Ethan scrawled as Ethan and the faint smear of lipstick on the lid. Sloppy, unprofessional, but what chilled him wasn't the cup. It was the quiet resignation in the room, the invisible divide between employees in on the joke and those left out. He stepped outside, sipping the bitter brew. Across the street, the reflection in a store window showed not the CEO of a 50-location empire, but a tired man holding a coffee he barely recognized from his own brand. He pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of the cup, the sloppy lid, the fading logo. A tiny thing, but symbolic. A company built on pride is now serving carelessness. A text pinged from Lauren Parker, his regional director. Any findings? Hope the store's smoother than last week's. Ethan stared at the message, thumb hovering. How to explain that what he'd found wasn't just bad service, it was rot. Quiet. Invisible rot is spreading beneath polished branding and cheery ads. He typed a reply. Lauren Northrop Serenin. We need to talk. Now rather than one-on-one. Then he looked back at the cafe. where Chad was laughing again, tossing a sugar packet at a coworker, where the teen stalked out, muttering, never coming back. And in that moment, Ethan knew this wasn't a bad shift. It wasn't a bad day. It was a symptom of something deeper, and he just stumbled onto the first crack in a dam that was about to break. Ethan Wells sat in his car across the street from the cafe, his coffee untouched in the cup holder. The bitter aftertaste wasn't from the brew, it was from everything he'd just witnessed. He flipped open a slim leather notebook, the same one he'd carried since the early days of Wells Brew, when it was just him and a dream scribbled on napkins. He jotted a simple phrase under today's date: nepotism, complacency, cracks in the foundation. He underlined it twice. His phone buzzed again, another text from Lauren. I'm heading to HQ. Should I loop in ahead or? Ethan hesitated. A charter? No, not yet. This wasn't a policy infraction. This wasn't something a memo could fix. He typed back. Not yet. This is bigger. He slid the phone into his pocket, exhaling slowly as he watched customers trickle in and out of the cafe. Some lingered at tables, sipping lattes while scrolling on their phones. Others left quickly, frustration etched on their faces. The regulars, he could spot them by their weary glances, the way they bypassed the tip jar without even looking. Ethan knew those looks. They weren't just disappointed customers. They were disillusioned believers. Once, this cafe had been their haven. Now it was just another mediocre stop in a sea of overpriced chains. He couldn't let it end like this. With renewed resolve, Ethan started the car and merged into traffic, dialing Lauren on Bluetooth. She answered instantly. Tell me everything. I overheard an employee bragging about how the manager only promotes family or people dating family. Maria was fired for asking for a raise. The staff morale is tanking. Service is sloppy. Customers are walking away. Lauren, this isn't just bad leadership. It's rot. He paused. Then, Gederica did. Damn. Exactly. You think it's isolated? I thought so, but the more I watch, the more I'm convinced it's systemic. If nepotism's entrenched here, it could be happening at other locations. I've ignored the warning signs too long. Lauren exhaled audibly. What's your move? I'm going deeper, Ethan said, his voice tightening. I want to visit 3 more stores. Undercover, EUD or Wanawash. Same as today. If this is spreading, I need to see it firsthand. Ethan, Lauren warned gently. You're the CEO. You can't keep playing secret shopper forever. I'm not playing, he replied. I'm fighting for the company I built. I need to know how deep this goes before we start pulling threads. Because if I start cleaning house without proof, the whole system might collapse. Lauren fell silent. Then a shivering some. Okay, but promise me something. What to ready to? When you find what you're looking for, you won't hesitate. Ethan gripped the steering wheel tightly. No hesitation. He hung up, merging onto the freeway. As the city skyline blurred past, memories surfaced of late nights cleaning tables, perfecting recipes, hiring staff not for their resumes but for their grit. Every step had been deliberate. Every hire mattered. And now somewhere along the line, the mission had been hijacked. He arrived at another Wells Brew location an hour later, this one in a bustling shopping plaza near a university. From the outside, it looked identical. The signature brick facade, the green awning with his stylized logo, the inviting string lights. But Ethan knew better than to trust appearances. He stepped inside, slipping into the customer line. Hey, can you hurry it up? A college student barked at the barista, who barely reacted. Doing my best, the young woman muttered without looking up. Ethan scanned the staff. 3 baristas are behind the counter. 2 looked stressed, moving frantically between stations. The 3rd leaning against the back counter, texting on her phone. Her apron bore the title Shift Supervisor. Ethan frowned. When his turn came, he ordered the same, medium black coffee. The cashier, with a different name tag, Ella, barely glanced at him as she rang him up. From the corner, he heard the supervisor laugh at a message on her phone. Can you believe Jared tried applying again? After I told him no last time, dude's clueless. The other barista grimaced. He's a solid worker, though. Doesn't matter, the supervisor cut in. He's not my cousin, or dating my cousin. He's not getting in. Ethan's stomach twisted. There it was again. Nepotism. Entitlement. Les Fronidlinoisinos. A private club disguised as a workplace. He sat near the window, sipping the coffee. Bitter again, both literally and figuratively. From his seat, he watched interactions unfold. The favored staff joked openly with the supervisor. The others worked twice as hard, received half the praise. A silent hierarchy that no training manual could explain. A young man in a Wells Brew apron approached the counter timidly. Hey, I was wondering if I could pick up an extra shift this weekend. The supervisor rolled her eyes. Sorry, Mason already gave them to Brandon and Cassie. But I haven't had a full week's pay in a month. Not my problem, she said flatly, turning away. Ethan watched Mason's shoulders sag as he walked back to the dish station. A customer at the next table leaned over to Ethan. Used to love this place, she whispered conspiratorially. But ever since the old manager left, it's gone downhill fast. Feels like they only care about their own. Ethan nodded faintly. Another crack in the foundation. Another fracture in the mission. Another story waiting to surface. He pulled out his notebook, flipping to a fresh page. He wrote one word at the top, underlining it. Pattern. Perseverant. And beneath it, if the heart rots, the body follows. He closed the notebook, steeling himself. Tomorrow, he'd visit a third store. But tonight, he'd make a plan. And when he was ready, he'd burn the whole rotten structure down and rebuild it stronger. The third cafe was nestled in a trendy downtown district, surrounded by boutiques and tech startups. On paper, it was one of the top-performing locations in the Wells Brew, chain stellar sales, glowing customer reviews, and a 5-star rating on every major platform. But Ethan Wells knew better than to trust numbers. He parked a few blocks away, pulling his hoodie tighter against the chill evening breeze. The neon Wells Brew sign glowed invitingly, casting warm light onto the sidewalk. From the outside, it was perfect. Cozy lights, full tables, baristas smiling behind the counter. But perfection, Ethan had learned, was often a mask. He stepped inside, the familiar smell of roasted beans wrapping around him like a memory. The line was short, the pace smooth. Too smooth, medium black coffee, he ordered again, keeping his voice neutral. The cashier, a tall man with slicked back hair and an easy grin, rang him up effortlessly. Sam, Ethan replied, using the alias he'd been practicing. The man's smile widened. Cool name. I'm Thru. Enjoy. Ethan took his cup, settling into a corner seat with a clear view of the counter. He watched Thru high-five another employee, then lean across the register to flirt with two women ordering fraps. At first glance, nothing seemed amiss. But then Ethan noticed the pattern. Only 3 employees were doing the actual work, moving fast, prepping drinks, wiping counters. The other 4 standing around, chatting, occasionally throwing half-hearted assistance. When a spill occurred near the condiment station, a young barista rushed to clean it. Hey, Marissa, Thru called lazily from the register. Leave it for Casey. She's gotta earn her keep. Marissa flushed but didn't argue, stepping back. A moment later, Casey, a nervous-looking girl no older than 19, hurried forward with a rag. Don't mess it up this time, Thru added loudly, earning snickers from the other slackers. Ethan's jaw clenched. He recognized it instantly. The hierarchy. The inner circle versus the outsiders. He sipped his coffee, scanning the name tags. Casey. Marisu Wanasawun. Durasurum. Wadruma. Jordan. Enwat Sawidir or Messi return. Mia Waner Syria. Chase. Domano Monasun. Kayla, Thru, Chase, and Kayla stood out not because they worked harder, but because they didn't work at all. They spent more time on their phones than on the espresso machine. Yet customers still left smiling, seemingly oblivious. A middle-aged woman approached the counter, her expression frazzled. "Excuse me, I ordered a cappuccino 10 minutes ago." Thru didn't even look up. "It's coming." The woman frowned. "But I see other orders going out before mine." Thru's smile sharpened. "Lady, you want a refund or do you want to wait?" The woman hesitated, then stepped aside, defeated. Ethan's stomach turned. This was worse than negligence. One. It was arrogance. Numbers on the side. Entitlement. Abuse of invisible power. And no one in corporate had caught it because the surface numbers were pristine. A ping from his phone. A message from Lauren. HQ audit teams are ready. "Do you have confirmation?" He typed back under the table. "Not yet, but I'm close." A sudden burst of laughter drew his attention. At the back of the cafe, Thru and Chase were huddled around a phone, showing something to Kayla. Ethan angled his head to catch their words. "Dude, the review she left hilarious." She thought complaining online would actually do something. Kayla giggled. "You flagged it." "Right. Of course." Thru smirked. "It's buried now. The algorithm never even surfaced." "God, these customers are clueless," Chase added. "And corporate's even dumber." Ethan froze. His blood ran cold. This wasn't just poor leadership. This was coordinated manipulation. They weren't ignoring complaints, they were actively suppressing them. A young barista, Casey, approached the trio nervously. Table 12 asked if they could get their drinks remade. They said they tasted burnt." Thru didn't look up. "Tell them we can't remake drinks after 5 minutes." "But 5 minutes," Thru repeated, his voice sharper. "Store policy." "Sinanunuan." Casey bit her lip. "But that's not the actual policy." Thru's eyes darkened. "You questioning me?" Casey shrank back. "No, sorry." "Good girl." Thru's smirk returned. "Now go wipe down the patio." Ethan gripped his cup tightly. He couldn't watch anymore. He stood, tossing the half-full coffee into the trash, and made his way to the exit. But just as he reached the door, Thru's voice called out, "Hey, Sam." "Right." Ethan turned slowly. "Yeah, where it is a must-sure." Thru winked. "Next time, try the Nitro Cold Brew. Best in the city." Ethan forced a smile. "Thanks for the tip." Outside, he leaned against the brick wall, breathing hard. He pulled out his notebook, flipping to the page marked Pattern. Underneath, he wrote, 3 locations. Same corruption. Same arrogance. Same cover-up. He underlined it 3 times. Then rewind, in bold strokes. Systemic. One. He stared at the word, feeling its weight. This wasn't an isolated rot. This was a cancer. And he had no choice but to cut it out, no matter how painful the surgery. He called Lauren. "Shunt. We're moving," he said. "Tonight." Lauren's SUV screeched into the back lot behind the downtown cafe, headlights cutting through the night. Ethan climbed in, slamming the door shut as she handed him a tablet glowing with reports. "What did you find?" she demanded, eyes scanning him for clues. "It's worse than we thought," Ethan replied grimly. "Not just favoritism. They're covering up complaints, deleting bad reviews, and gaslighting customers. 3 locations. Same exact pattern." Lauren's face hardened. "Coordinated." "Looks that way." Ethan's voice dropped. "And Thru, he's running it like a kingdom. The good employees are marginalized. The connected ones untouchable." Lauren swore under her breath. "We need to act before it spreads further." Ethan nodded. "It already has." He turned the tablet toward her, showing a hidden camera photo he'd captured inside. Thru, Chase, and Kayla huddled around a laptop. "Same trio at 2 other stores last month," Ethan explained. "They're training other managers how to game the system." Lauren's jaw dropped. They're franchising corruption. Ethan leaned back in his seat, exhaling slowly. We can't fix this with memos and warnings. We have to burn it down. A moment of silence passed. Lauren's lips curved into a grim smile. Then let's light the match. The next morning, Ethan walked into corporate headquarters. No disguise, no pretense. The leadership team was already assembled: regional managers, operations heads, PR advisors. Every face turned as he entered, sensing the shift in his posture. He wasn't here as the absent CEO. He was here as a man at war. Gentlemen, Ethan began, voice steely, we have a cancer in this company. He tossed 3 thick folders onto the conference table with a thud. Read them, Zinartiwewan. Every policy violation, every manipulated review, every harassment complaint buried at store level. The room fell into stunned silence as they flipped through the damning reports. We pride ourselves on transparency, Ethan continued, pacing deliberately. But the system we built allowed predators to hide in plain sight. Drew Miller, Termoir de Risus, the Submariner, Chase Reynolds, Kayla Bishop, Istasavio, and likely more. 3 locations, one manager asked hesitantly. Confirmed. At least 5 more showing early signs. A murmur rippled across the room. Ethan's gaze hardened. Starting today, every Wells Brew Cafe undergoes a full personnel audit. Every complaint reopened. Every terminated employee was contacted. Every performance review is reevaluated. Sir, that'll cause a PR nightmare, someone protested. Ethan slammed his palm on the table. The nightmare is letting this continue. Silence. Lauren stepped forward beside him, tablet in hand. We've prepared undercover teams. They'll rotate through every location over the next 60 days. And Drew, another manager, asked nervously. Ethan's smile was cold. Leave Drew to me. That afternoon, Ethan walked into the downtown cafe, not undercover, but in a tailored navy suit. His presence undeniable. Drew spotted him instantly from the register, his confident smirk faltering. Well, Drew drawled, masking nerves with arrogance. Didn't expect corporate royalty to grace us. Ethan approached the counter, locking eyes with him. We need to talk. Drew chuckled. Look, if this is about that Yelp review thing, it's standard practice. Everyone flags bogus complaints. Ethan didn't blink. In my office. I must have to one. Now, Drew's swagger faded as customers watched curiously. I'm working a shift. Now, Ethan repeated, voice cutting steel. Behind them, Marissa and Casey exchanged glances. Lauren was already waiting inside the manager's office, flanked by an HR rep and security guard. Drew entered, visibly sweating. Look, if this is some disciplinary thing, you need to go through corporate protocol. You forfeited protocol the moment you corrupted my cafe? Ethan interrupted coldly. He tossed a folder onto the desk. Photos, statements, transcripts spilled out. Drew scanned them, color draining from his face. You spied on me. I listened, Ethan corrected. And to your words, your actions, your betrayal. Drew laughed bitterly. Please, as this one. Every manager bends the rules. It's survival. You didn't bend the rules. Drew, you broke them, twisted them, turned this place into a playground for nepotism and abuse. Drew's bravado cracked. You can't pin everything on me. Chase, Kayla, they were in on it too. They're already suspended pending investigation. Drew's head snapped up. What? You're done here. Drew. Ethan's voice softened, almost pitying. Not just fired, banned from rehiring across the chain. And if any harassment claims escalate to litigation, Drew paled. You're ruining me. You ruined yourself. Security stepped forward. I built this store's numbers, Drew shouted as they guided him toward the door. You think the next guy'll do better? You'll see they'll all quit without me. Ethan watched him go without flinching. Maybe they will, he murmured, but they'll leave on their terms. Not yours. Outside, customers whispered as Drew was let out. his corporate polo now a symbol of disgrace. Marissa approached Ethan tentatively. Is, is it over? She asked softly. Ethan's gaze softened for the first time that day. No, Marissa, he said quietly. This is just the beginning. The news spread faster than Ethan anticipated. By the next morning, whispers had turned into headlines across industry blogs and local media. Undercover CEO exposes corruption in his own cafe chain. Social media erupted with mixed reactions, some praising Ethan's decisive leadership, others questioning how such corruption had gone unnoticed. Ethan sat in his office, eyes heavy from another sleepless night. Lauren entered, holding a printout of the latest press coverage. They're calling you the quiet storm, she said, half amused, half exhausted. Ethan offered a tired smile. Not the worst nickname. She placed the printout on his desk. We're getting emails from former employees. Dozens. Some thanks to you. Some asking for their jobs back. Ethan leaned forward. Good. I want them interviewed. Anyone pushed out unfairly gets first priority for rehire if they still want to return. Lauren hesitated. That'll ruffle feathers. It should. He stood, walking toward the window overlooking downtown. Below, one of his Wells Brew cafes bustled with customers. The sight brought both pride and sorrow. We built this chain on a promise. Lauren, Ethan murmured. A promise we failed to keep. Lauren stepped beside him. But you're keeping it now. He turned to her, resolve sharpening. Not enough to clean up Drew's mess. We need to rebuild trust with employees, customers, every community we serve. He picked up the phone. Schedule an all-staff town hall, every location. Mandatory attendance. And I want it live streamed. Lauren's eyes widened. You're going to address them directly. Yes. His gaze hardened. Every single person. 2 days later, the largest conference hall in corporate HQ was packed over 500 employees seated shoulder to shoulder. Every cafe live-streamed the event, with screens set up in break rooms and dining areas. When Ethan walked onto the stage, a hush fell over the crowd. No suit today, just a simple black button-up, sleeves rolled, the look of a man ready to work. Thank you for coming, Ethan began, his voice steady but sincere. I know many of you are angry, confused, some of you are afraid. He let that hang in the air. What happened at certain locations wasn't just a breach of policy, it was a betrayal of everything Wells Brew stands for. A murmur swept through the crowd. I built this company 12 years ago, Ethan continued, with one goal: to create a place where hard work was rewarded, where everyone, no matter their background, had a chance. He paused, eyes scanning the audience. Somewhere along the way, I got comfortable. Trusted numbers more than people. Trusted policies more than culture. I stopped showing up. Silence. And in my absence, others filled that void with their own rules, their own systems. He lifted a stack of files. These are the reports of every violation, every abuse of power. We're not hiding them. We're confronting them. He tossed the files onto the podium. Starting today, we rebuild. Together, he stepped closer to the edge of the stage. Every store will have a direct reporting line to my office. Every complaint will be investigated. Every hiring process is audited. No more nepotism. No more favoritism. The crowd shifted. Some skeptical, some hopeful. I know promises aren't enough, Ethan admitted. That's why I'm going back into the field. Every week, I'll be at a different location. Not as a CEO, as a coworker. That drew startled whispers. I'll mop floors, take orders, work the espresso machine, and I won't be alone. Every executive at headquarters will be required to complete frontline shifts quarterly. Lauren, watching from backstage, smiled proudly. Ethan's voice deepened. If we're going to expect accountability, it starts at the top. A pause. I don't expect immediate trust. Trust has to be earned, re-earned. Every day, He surveyed the sea of faces, some still wary, others visibly moved. But I promise you this. We will become the company we were meant to be, or we won't be at all. The room erupted, some clapping cautiously, others rising in applause. Not thunderous, not unanimous, but genuine. A beginning. Afterward, as employees approached the stage to shake his hand, Ethan felt the weight on his chest lighten. Lauren joined him, notebook in hand. Not bad for a first step, she quipped. He smiled tiredly. A long road ahead. Yeah, she agreed. But this time, we're walking it together. Ethan looked out at the crowd lingering in conversation, their energy different. There's such hopeful was. And for the first time in weeks, he believed it too. The following morning, Ethan stood at the entrance of Wells Brew's headquarters, staring up at the glass-paneled facade. The sun gleamed off the company's logo, a stylized coffee bean encircled by laurel leaves. It used to inspire pride. Today, it felt hollow. Lauren met him inside, a stack of files tucked under her arm. The final reports from Sophia, she said grimly. Payroll discrepancies, hiring irregularities, customer complaint suppression. And Ethan, it's not just 3 stores. It's at least 9. Ethan's breath hitched. Napkinny. Lauren nodded. And every one of them tied back to Brett's network. Some directly hired by him years ago. Some mentored by managers he trained. Ethan ran a hand down his face. It's a syndicate. Lauren. Not just isolated favoritism. They've embedded themselves across the company. And they're growing bolder. Lauren handed him another sheet, a printed message from an anonymous employee tip line. This came in last night. Someone overheard Brett telling his circle that corporate doesn't have the guts to touch us. So, Ethan's jaw tightened. They're betting on our silence. Well, Lauren said, her tone sharp. They've bet wrong. Ethan paced the conference room, staring at the whiteboard where he'd scrawled names and locations. We can't just fire a few bad apples. If we do that, they'll paint themselves as victims. We need to expose the whole system. Publicly, irrefutably. Lauren's eyes gleamed. You're planning a confrontation. Not just a confrontation, Ethan said quietly. A reckoning. He tapped a name on the board. Rick Dawson. He's the keystone, Brett's protégé. If we take him down, we collapse the chain. Lauren frowned thoughtfully. He's slippery. You saw how carefully he played the role yesterday. Exactly why we're going back, Ethan replied. But not as observers. Lauren's brow rose. What's the plan? Ethan's lips curled into a wry smile. We're applying for jobs. 2 hours later, Ethan stood behind the counter at Wells Brew 17, wearing a borrowed barista apron and a name tag that read Eli. Lauren was stationed in the back, ostensibly shadowing inventory management. Their fake resumes had sailed through Rick's lax vetting system, one quick call to references Sophia had orchestrated. And they were in them. The shift was chaotic from the start. Rick barked orders from his perch near the register, occasionally glancing at Ethan with vague suspicion, but mostly ignoring the new guy fumbling with coffee sleeves. Move faster, Eli. Rick snapped as the line snaked past the door. We're on a timer here. Yes, sir, Ethan replied smoothly, deliberately spilling a few napkins to mask his observation of Rick's interactions. He watched as Rick pocketed a $10 bill from the tip jar during a busy moment. Watched him override a refund on the POS system without logging it. Watched him hand a free pastry to a teenager who called him Uncle Rick. Every move, every subtle manipulation, reinforced what Ethan already knew. This wasn't incompetence. It was a well-oiled machine of quiet corruption. Meanwhile, in the storeroom, Lauren discovered a logbook marked Alt Inventory, a parallel record showing discrepancies between reported stock and actual deliveries. They're skimming supplies, she whispered into her concealed mic. Every month. Thousands of missing products. Ethan's earpiece crackled softly. Got it, he murmured under his breath, handing a customer their latte. The day stretched on, each hour peeling back another layer of deceit. By mid-afternoon, Ethan witnessed Rick pull a junior employee aside and whisper something into her ear. Minutes later, she handed a sealed envelope to a delivery driver who bypassed the usual check-in process. Lauren's voice was tense in his ear. That was a supplier handoff, not logged. They're laundering supplies. Ethan's pulse pounded. He's turning the store into a personal pipeline. Then came the moment Ethan had been waiting for. Rick, confident no corporate eyes were watching, gathered 3 employees, 2 cousins, 1 nephew into the office for a closed-door meeting. Ethan positioned himself discreetly outside, activating his phone's voice recorder through his pocket. Can't keep taking from inventory at this rate. Rick's muffled voice leaked through the door. Corporate's gonna notice. We'll fudge the counts again, one voice replied. Same as last quarter. Yeah, and when they send inspectors, Rick chuckled, they'll never send anyone without a heads up. And even if they do, we make the outsiders take the fall. They don't know the system. Easy scapegoats. Ethan's chest tightened with fury. Lauren's whisper cut through his headset. We've got enough. Only one. This is damning. But Ethan wasn't finished. The voices inside shifted. Rick spoke again. Quieter. Almost smug. Besides, Brett's working on getting district oversight shifted to his guy next quarter. Once that happens, we're golden. Corporate won't touch us. We'll be untouchable. Ethan's breath caught. And they're aiming higher. Lauren's voice was razor sharp. They're consolidating power. A storm gathered behind Ethan's eyes. Then it's not just a reckoning we need. He straightened his shoulders, heart pounding. It's a cleansing. The next morning, the corporate headquarters of Wells Brew hummed with an unusual energy. Every regional manager, store manager, and department head had been summoned for an emergency meeting. No agenda, no details, just a simple directive. Mandatory attendance. Ethan stood at the front of the glass-walled conference room, a sleek black binder in his hands. Lauren stood beside him, flanked by Sophia Chen, the private investigator whose work had uncovered the tangled web. As the room filled, Ethan's gaze swept over the crowd. Some faces carried quiet confidence. Others flickered with unease. And a few Rick Dawson among them wore thinly veiled smirks, as if certain this was another toothless corporate formality. Ethan spoke, his voice calm, measured. Thank you for coming. Before we begin, I ask that you turn off your phones. A ripple of confusion passed through the room. Ethan waited as devices were powered down, collected into a basket at the door. Today, he continued, we're going to have a different kind of meeting. The lights dimmed. The screen behind him flickered to life, playing a montage of hidden camera footage from 9 Wells Brew locations. Conversations captured from backrooms, kitchens, supply rooms, audio clips of whispered deals, falsified logs, quiet orders to suppress complaints. Rick's face paled as his own voice echoed through the speakers. Once Brett gets district oversight, we'll be untouchable. A sharp intake of breath rippled across the room. Ethan let the video finish in silence. When the lights rose, he looked directly at Rick. Do you still believe that? Rick? Rick's mouth opened, then shut again. His cocky smirk crumbled. This is illegal, he sputtered. You can't spy on your employees. Our contracts, Lauren interrupted coolly, allow for internal audits and monitoring of company property. Everything you saw was recorded legally, within company-owned facilities, using equipment disclosed in your onboarding paperwork. Sophia stepped forward, dropping a thick file onto the table with a satisfying thud. And just to be clear, we have sworn statements from 74 current and former employees, confirming the systemic nepotism, harassment, theft, and manipulation across your network. Rick's shoulders sagged. Ethan's voice sharpened. You've turned Wells Brew into your personal kingdom. Hiring family, spam, blocking promotions, skimming supplies, siren, rigging reviews, silencing whistleblowers. He paused, letting each accusation land. You undermined everything this company was built on. Rick swallowed hard. It wasn't just me. Ethan raised a hand. We know. And that's why this isn't just about you. He turned to the rest of the managers. Effective immediately. Rick Dawson is terminated for cause. Security will escort him out. Any attempt to contact employees or interfere with this investigation will result in legal action. 2 security officers approached. Rick rose unsteadily, looking around for support. None came. You're making a mistake, Rick muttered as they led him away. You think you can fix this. You don't understand how deep it goes. Ethan watched him leave. I understand perfectly, he murmured. He turned back to the room, scanning the remaining managers. I know some of you were pressured. Some of you benefited. Some stayed silent. He let the silence stretch. But today, he continued, his voice firm but not cruel. You have a choice. You can walk out that door with Rick. Or you can stay. Cooperate. Help rebuild what was broken. Lauren stepped forward. Anyone wishing to resign or dispute these findings can do so now. No one moved. Good, Ethan said quietly. Starting tomorrow, every store undergoes a full operational audit. Hiring will be centralized. Promotions reviewed by an independent panel. Anonymous reporting channels will expand. He softened his tone. For those who've been waiting for fairness, your wait is over. Across the room, hesitant nods. A few tearful smiles. Quiet hope blooming where cynicism had festered. And one more thing, Ethan added. You'll each spend 1 week working the floor at a different store. You're going back to the counter. The register, the cleaning shifts, a few managers stiffened. You'll relearn what it means to serve, Ethan explained. To listen, to be visible. He closed the binder. Because leadership isn't about sitting in an office counting margins. It's about earning trust. Every day, every cup. Lauren handed out packets of the new oversight policies. We're not perfect, but we're done pretending the old ways worked. As the managers quietly left the room, Ethan lingered by the window, watching them scatter like autumn leaves. Lauren joined him. It's done. It started, Ethan corrected softly. The real work begins now. She followed his gaze. Do you think they'll rise to it? Ethan smiled faintly. I'm betting on them. Same way I bet on you. She chuckled. You always were reckless. He turned to her, grateful. And you always had my back. Outside, the city glimmered under the midday sun. Somewhere, a delivery truck rumbled past. A street musician played an off-key guitar. A new day. A clean slate. Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from a store supervisor at one of the cleaned-up locations. Today felt different. Customers noticed. Staff noticed. Thanks, oh. He pocketed the phone. Let's get to work, he said simply. And together, they stepped forward toward redemption, toward rebuilding, toward a company worthy of the name Wells Brew.